kia ora koutou, ko Rikurangi te maunga, ko Waiapu te awa, ko Aukumara te ngahere, ko Ngāti Parau te iwi, no tikapa auau. Who knows where tikapa is? Yeah, not too many, that's how we like it. So it's a little sleepy hollow at the end of the road into Rua. So yeah, we live at the mouth on the south side of the Waiapu, and yeah, every time it rains heavy, we lose more and more land. It either gets buried over or washed out to sea. So, and I've lived there for most of my life, and it's not getting better, it's getting worse. So, yeah, applaud you all for the kaupapa this group is on. It's it really is a big issue for our region. So yeah, my background is pretty much 30 years of environmental restoration based around Aotearoa, and trying to put pieces back together, and based up at home mostly. Yeah, with a big focus around the Raukumara. So my relationship with the Raukumara probably started as a 4 or 5-year-old, following my old man around. He used to do every winter possum skins. It was a pretty lucrative side earn, and we'd just follow him up the rivers, and he'd be just laying cyanide paste, and by the end of the day, after he was happy enough that enough cyanide paste was down, we'd sort of look around for a bank or whatever, and he'd light a fire under it and smoke all the old spiders out and chuck some ferns underneath, and that was home for the night. So we did that every school holidays, especially during the winter months. We only stuck to the rivers because up the sides was just a tangled nightmare. So deer were just starting to come into the picture then, and same with possums. So this beautiful place full of birds, rivers were full of blue ducks and everything. And so that was the childhood. In regards to you know, what I do, and the part that the Raukumara plays in this kaupapa is, for 30 years I worked for the Department of Conservation, and during that time period I pretty much watched it go from the Garden of Eden to the empty shell it is today. And so that's all due to lack of funding, or, you know, Gisborne's a long way from Wellington, if I try and be polite or PC. But yeah, really heartbreaking as somebody that, you know, passionate about our flora and fauna, and watching it pretty much vanish. So Kerry spoke earlier about when all our Indigenous cover was forests were converted into pastoral farms, and pretty soon after that happened, scientists at the time noticed that the erosion rates were you know, increasing and accelerating really. So no real surprise. We got the soft geologies, and you know, the predictions that from way back in the 40s, even might have been earlier, that if nothing was done about the erosion, the lower reaches of our main rivers would end up being swamp basically, and that's what's happening today. So yeah, so as far as the role that conservation plays, all our rivers, on the main rivers anyway, the Waiapu and the Waipawa, they have their sources in the Raukumara, and it's got the real fragile geology as well. I call it wheat bix rock. So it was all good when it was all held together and knitted, you know, with the tree roots and big thick canopy over the top. But now a lot of that's been compromised, and so our forests, the higher parts of the ranges, get up to 5 or 6 metres of rainfall a year. It's probably more now since in the last 5 years, but that's a lot of water. And our forests have lost our Indigenous forests have lost their protection values. And what I mean by that is that there was I can remember first going out there, and then even, you know, in the skinning days, you could just sleep in the moss, and the moss would be up to your knees or deeper. And a lot of that's all gone. It's been, the deer have either eaten it or trampled it. And so anyone that's been in there, has anyone been in the Raukumara? Not many, eh? So that's a big part of the issue as well. No one sort of witnessed what happened. But those protection values, 30% of the rainfall is intercepted by the canopy, 30%, like the branches and the trunk, is just covered in moss, and then 30%, or what remains, hits the forest floor, and you had all your the duff layer, the mossy carpet. It would soak up all that rain and then slow release it through the year. So it would regulate our river flows. Didn't matter if it was a drought or whatever. It would just slow release. It was a giant sponge, and at the same time it would recharge all our aquifers down where we live. And so all of that has been lost. And so now the deer have just eaten everything underneath. And you know, people sort of challenged me on that one. And I said, well, you know, the ranges are a couple of 100,000 hectares. And I said, well, you shout us the helicopter and we'll spin the beer bottle, and wherever it stops, we'll go there and I'll show you. It all looks the same now, which is sad. So the urgency really is to get those protection values back, because it's a waste of time trying to save kiwis and whatever, and their house is falling to bits. So protection values first, which affects us who all live down in the lower reaches of the rivers. And so same with the Waipawa, or you can keep building stop banks higher and higher, but if the catchments are falling to pieces, those stop banks will be overwhelmed. It'll be just, there's a cyclone just over there next to the horizon that'll undo all the good work. So yeah, not trying to sound like the doom and gloom merchant, but I would just witnessed all of that happen. So conservation plays a big part in this, because if we're looking at trying to plant our way out of this, we need to get on top of all those pest animals. And so the deer are a huge issue for our region, not just in the conservation land, but also out on the farms and stuff. And so get rid of all the deer, wave the wand and get rid of them off the farms, but the deer and the rangers will just keep, there'll be a forever source population to keep coming out and undoing all the good work that, you know, we're about to try and do. So as far as solutions, we've got a project going at the moment. So Raukumara Paimounga. Before it was just myself and one other dock ranger that, you know, were tasked with trying to keep our fingers on the pulse as far as what was happening in the tile space, the environmental space. And now there's 40 people that are all locals that are getting their fingers back into the dirt basically, and learning how the tile how it works. So, you know, what we're dealing with is 6 generations of disconnect. I think that's how long farming's been here. And so that the knowledge about how this all worked pre-human has been it's only a shadow of what it used to be. We're lucky, you know, compared to other iwi. We had people like Apira Nangata, who was in Parliament at the time, and he was a real forward thinker, and he managed to document a lot of that mātauranga and traditional knowledge. So I've been, you know, it's a passion of mine, so scrolled through all of this stuff and hung out with those few and far between knowledge holders. And so yeah, huge kaupapa in front of us. Yeah, so kia ora.